I'm John Floberg of the Washington State Parks Foundation, and today we're going to take you on a journey to the parks. The State Parks Foundation wants to show you the very best that state parks have to offer so that you'll come see them yourself. In the second year of Journey to the Parks, we're going to take you to beautiful Penrose Point State Park at the south end of Puget Sound. With over 2 miles of pristine shoreline, it's an ideal place to explore all the sea life at low tide and even go scuba diving. Now you're going to get to experience the wonder of this low tide environment courtesy of the Peach Foundation and many private donors. We hope you have fun, and thanks for coming.
Welcome to Penrose Point State Park.
Penrose Point State Park is a 165-acre marine and camping park on the shores of Puget Sound on the Key Peninsula. In addition to the 2 miles of shoreline, extensive walking trails, and a hidden lagoon, the park's most distinguishing feature is the long peninsula that is exposed during low tides. Because of its easy access, location, and abundance of wildlife, Penrose Point State Park is the perfect location to get your feet wet with Harbor Wildwatch. Harbor Wildwatch is a marine and environmental education organization dedicated to inspiring stewardship of Puget Sound. Puget Sound was formed during the last ice age, under the weight and friction of advancing and receding glaciers over 3,000 feet high. The glaciers left behind deep channels which formed an inland sea. Over the past 500 years, forces of erosion, currents, and tides have shaped the beaches, deltas, and sandspits to that which we see today. With more than 10,000 rivers and streams flowing into it, Puget Sound is the nation's second largest estuary after Chesapeake Bay. Estuaries are places where freshwater and saltwater mix together, creating a unique habitat. Many species depend on the estuary. Most notable of these are the many species of salmon that acclimate to the salinity of the ocean within the quiet harbors and bays within Puget Sound. When the tide is out, animals who live on the beach are exposed and particularly vulnerable to drying out, predation, changes in temperature and salinity, and are at the mercy of the weather. Walk slowly to notice the different animals in each zone and how one zone transitions to the next. The top of the beach is called the splash zone. The tide only reaches this area when it is at its highest. Look for the line of washed-up seaweed called the Strand Line. Slightly farther down begins the high intertidal zone. Animals common here include mussels, limpets, and barnacles. Barnacles are well suited to life here. As the tide goes out, they trap water in their shells. When the tide returns, they open and kick out their feet to catch plankton. You can find the top of the high intertidal zone by looking for the point where you no longer find barnacles. The next lowest zone on the beach is called the middle intertidal zone, characterized by the presence of green algae called sea lettuce. Seaweed, or algae, is very important and is plentiful in the intertidal zone. Algae provides food and habitat for many animals. Similar to plants, algae makes its own food from sunlight, but there is where the similarities end. Algae does not have roots, stems, or leaves, and if torn apart, continues to live. Algae is classified by its color, red, green, and brown, and all are found living together in the intertidal zone. Green algae found here is typically from the genus Ulva and is commonly called sea lettuce. Many animals utilize the sea lettuce, like this hermit crab. Turkish Towel and Irridescent Seaweed are 2 of the most easy to identify of the red algae. Many different species of kelp make up the brown algae and are found in deeper water. There is one true plant that lives underwater in Puget Sound called eel grass. Eel grass beds are the most productive habitat within Puget Sound, and you should use care not to trample the delicate blades. Many small crabs call the middle intertidal zone their home. You can find them by turning over small rocks the size of your head. Look for clam siphons squirting water out as you walk. Shellfish can be plentiful in this zone. The low intertidal zone is only exposed for a short window at the lowest tides. Sea stars, once called starfish, are numerous in this zone. Because they are not fish, the name starfish has been changed to sea star. Ochre stars have 5 stout arms and are purple or ochre in color. Look for them under large boulders. Sea stars, like this spiny pink star, rely on seawater to power their tube feed, and often try to outrun the outgoing tide to avoid being stranded until it returns. The tube feet are used for locomotion as well as a way to capture prey. They are carnivores and will eat whatever they can catch, including mussels, clams, and even dead fish and crab. This ochre star is dining on a dead crab and her eggs. Because the sunflower star has a flexible body and many tube feet, it is the fastest and most voracious of all the sea stars. If you find a sea star that is eating, you will see its delicate, transparent stomach protruding from the mouth. Be careful if you encounter the red rock crab, which can be identified by their distinctive red color and powerful claws with black tips. Black-clawed mud crabs are also common here. When flipping over a rock, pay close attention to the animals on the rock, not just what's underneath it. Many animals can be spotted here, including flatworms, jingle shells, and chitons. Even the keenest observers may not be able to find a moon snail, but evidence of their presence can be seen all throughout the lower intertidal zone. These large carnivorous snails prey on clams. They can use their large muscular foot to dig down in the sand and smother them, or use their sharp tongue, called a radula, to scrape a hole through the clam's shell near the hinge. When threatened, the moon snail can withdraw its foot all the way into its shell, which is sealed with a tough shield called an operculum. The operculum grows with the snail and keeps out all but the most determined red rock crab. The eggs of the moon snail are called sand collars and look like something man-made. The many thousands of microscopic eggs are sandwiched between a layer of sand and mucus on either side. Another common snail is the frilled dogwinkle. Their eggs resemble swollen grains of rice. Only on the lowest tides of the year is the subtidal zone accessible. Bubble snails lay gelatinous yellow eggs on patches of algae. The Shaggy Mouse nudibranch, or sea slug, can be easily observed in the springtime. They eat anemones and incorporate the stinging cells of their prey onto their backs for defense. Their eggs look like white gelatinous coils. There are many other species of nudibranch that can be found on the beach, but you will have to look very carefully as many can be tiny. This unidentified species is smaller than a grain of rice. Occasionally, beach explorers will discover fish, such as the small eel-like gunnels, tidepool sculpin, or tadpole-shaped plain-fin midshipmen. These fish are guarding their territory and sometimes eggs and should never be touched or moved. As long as their skin is wet, they can survive until the tide returns. Try and find squid eggs, which form large rafts of maturing embryos in the spring and summer. The eggs are clear when they are first laid and then turn brownish as they near maturity. You may be lucky enough to see small embryos within the eggs. While you are walking on the beach, look around at the many species of birds that live in the Pacific Northwest. You can easily see crows, herons, gulls, and even bald eagles, which regularly perch in the tall trees near the beach. Bald eagles often utilize the intertidal zone for food. Watch as this one grabs a quick meal from the beach. Harbor seals are the most abundant marine mammal in Puget Sound. They often haul out on protected beaches at low tide to digest food, rest, give birth, or nurse young. Pupping season occurs from July through September, and often pups are left on the beach while the mother hunts. As you can see, there are a lot of living organisms found on Puget Sound beaches. We hope you enjoyed this tour through the intertidal zones at Penrose Point State Park.